They say South Park holds nothing back, but this time, they might have gone too far. What started as a standard parody turned into something so ruthless, so unfiltered, that even longtime fans were left speechless. Leaked details from inside the studio paint a picture of an episode that was darker, sharper, and more savage than anything that made it to air. Test audiences reportedly gasped, legal teams panicked, and for Meghan Markle, if the rumors are true, she'll wish this episode never existed. This isn't just satire. This was a full-blown animated takedown, with scenes so brutal they were allegedly cut before the final version ever hit screens. But what exactly did South Park try to bury? And why are so many people saying it went too far? Let's break down the brutal, unfiltered version you weren't supposed to see.
I feel like the focus is starting to shift off of me. Maybe in editing you'll fix it.
We want privacy! We want privacy! We want privacy!
Sir, your millions from Netflix for no one knows what.
Put it with the rest of them.
Babe, time to do our daily $250,000 sponsored Instagram post for Del Taco.
I shouldn't have left the made-up nonsense.
It started with whispers, quiet, uncertain chatter from people who claim to have seen an unreleased version of the episode. But then came the leak. According to multiple insiders, the original South Park script wasn't just controversial, it was nuclear. Executives, even the ones known for having thick skin, supposedly questioned whether they could actually air it. One insider claimed the conversation wasn't about softening the script, it was about pulling the episode entirely. That's how far it went.
So said they're very wealthy. He's been handed everything he has on a platter. You know, they're literal royals. They're living in a multi-million-pound house in Southern California. I mean, really, what grievances do you have that most people can relate with?
America now, and we don't give a about you. You're not our prince. You'll never be king. We hate your wife. Stay at home in your $29 million mansion, all right?
You can't sue a cartoon. It's satire. It is what it is. South Park has done episodes on the royal family, on the royal wedding of Kate and William, for instance. So it's not something that they would be able to sue about. And I generally just don't believe it, really.
She was portrayed as self-obsessed, brand-obsessed, and addicted to attention, all while desperately clinging to the image of being misunderstood. Her dialogue? A chaotic mash of Instagram-style affirmations, empty brand slogans, and dramatic declarations like, "My soul weeps in languages I've not yet chosen to invent." At one point, she demands to be called a delusional, made-up princess, fully leaning into the narrative with exaggerated theatrics. The satire took real-life quotes from interviews and turned them inside out, making even her calmest statements sound unhinged. And the writers didn't stop at Meghan. Prince Harry's animated counterpart was portrayed as a clueless sidekick, constantly trying to follow her lead, only to get flattened, ignored, or pushed out of frame.
It is the cringiest, most uncomfortable piece of tape I've seen in a long time.
Matters is what we have on the inside.
The gross disrespect to the intimacy and privacy of marriage and childbirth. You know, there are some moments that are supposed to be between a husband and a wife.
The whole roast felt like a carefully orchestrated demolition of their public personas. Nothing was off limits. From her role on Suits to the infamous Truth Tour, the writers pulled every thread they could, and then yanked it hard. But the worst jab? That was still coming, and it was designed to hit where it hurt the most. In what insiders are calling the moment that almost got the episode killed, South Park reportedly crafted a scene so cutting, it sent the studio into a panic. It happened during the first table read. According to a junior storyboard artist, Trey Parker dropped a surprise punchline that hadn't been in the original script. It took Meghan's now famous mantra, "I just want to tell my truth," and turned it into a satirical landmine. The scene twisted that phrase into what the team allegedly called a flaming boomerang, a line of dialogue that circled back and hit her animated self square in the face. Not figuratively, literally. In the animation, the words "tell the truth" reportedly caught fire and ricocheted back like a weapon, slamming into her during a speech. The message? Clear. South Park wasn't just mocking the phrase. They were questioning its sincerity, suggesting that her version of truth was more performance than reality.
These two are not sincere people. They say that they want their privacy while going on every television show, writing books, doing 6 hours of Netflix. They're not very likable, and people are tired of them.
It was a classic South Park move, brutally meta, visually absurd, and deeply uncomfortable. And the reaction from early viewers? A mix of stunned silence and nervous laughter. The moment was allegedly so sharp that even studio executives debated whether it crossed a line. But Parker and Stone didn't flinch. If anything, it set the tone for what came next.
Meghan ruined Harry. Now that the once carefree, fun-loving prince has turned into a miserable moaner, lashing out from the depths of his paranoia at a world he thinks is conspiring against him.
If you think about it, Meghan got everything she wanted. She got the husband, she got the children, she got the HRA, she got everything that allowed her to rise up and to have that global recognition that we know how badly she wanted that.
A creative team fully committed to going all in. And the deeper you go, the darker it gets. By this point, the writer's room was on fire, creatively and apparently legally. Behind the scenes, South Park's parent network reportedly hit the brakes hard. Why? Because the episode wasn't just bold, it was potentially actionable. The satire had gone so far, the legal team began flagging segments left and right for potential defamation, likeness violations, and brand infringement. And that's when the real standoff began. Trey Parker and Matt Stone weren't just the showrunners, they had something much more powerful. A non-negotiable creative control clause. Translation? The lawyers couldn't force edits unless Parker and Stone agreed. And they didn't. According to insiders, the two stood their ground. No compromises, no watering down. If anything, the tension reportedly inspired them to push the envelope further. One producer allegedly said the legal team was white-knuckling it, especially over scenes that mocked Meghan's real-life deals, failed ventures, and public narratives. There were legitimate fears of lawsuits, not from the royal family, but from business partners tied to her brand. But Parker and Stone had faced worse. They'd been sued, threatened, and blacklisted before, and came out stronger every time. This episode, they believed, was just another chapter in that fight, one where creative freedom went head-to-head with corporate caution. And while the lawyers were sweating, the animators were already working on what might have been the most over-the-top scene in the entire leak. And it started with a neon pink This was the megaphone scene that reportedly had both fans and insiders saying, okay, they really went there. In what's now being referred to in leaks as the Megaphone Meg sequence, the animated version of Meghan Markle storms onto a fake maternity ward set. Bright studio lights, exaggerated props, and all. But what stole the show wasn't the setting. It was the neon pink megaphone. Clutching the oversized loudspeaker, she's said to have shrieked into it with full dramatic force. Tell the truth! About my truth! It wasn't just a punchline. It was a direct satire of her Aspire interview, the widely publicized sit-down that many believed was crafted to reclaim her narrative. South Park didn't just mock it, they exaggerated it until it became cartoonishly surreal. The scene was loud, literal, and chaotic, with her animated character turning what was once a personal statement into an absurd public performance. And in the background, supposedly, baby dolls rolled across the floor, branded with tiny, failed logos of her past ventures. But it wasn't just the visuals that hit hard, it was the underlying point, that public vulnerability, when overly packaged and branded, can start to feel less like truth and more like theater. The creators weren't suggesting she didn't suffer, they were mocking the way her story had been commercialized. It was South Park at its most savage. Funny on the surface, cutting underneath. And just when viewers thought it couldn't get more brutal, the next scene reportedly brought the message home. with a glitching smile and a crashing brand. This is where the parody stopped being just funny and started feeling personal. In the leaked animatic version, Meghan's cartoon counterpart delivers a speech about authenticity, but as she talks, something unsettling happens. Her smile begins to glitch. Literally, her lips stretch into a mechanical, almost robotic grin, like a broken animatronic doll. Meanwhile, background characters chant "authenticity" over and over in cult-like unison. The message wasn't subtle, a manufactured image disguised as vulnerability. And then came the visual metaphor that reportedly had the studio lawyers pacing the hallway. Prince Harry, trying to intervene in the chaos, is flattened by a rolling cart. On the cart, stacks of unsold American Riviera Orchard jam jars, a brutal nod to Meghan's much-memed lifestyle brand. To drive it home, the animators supposedly layered in real-world audio of glass shattering, not cartoon sound effects. Actual, recorded glass smashing, echoing through the scene like a symbol of crumbling public trust. But they didn't stop there. In the same segment, posters in the background flash rapidly with slogans like rebrand, repackage, repeat. It's blink and you'll miss it stuff, the kind of satire that rewards viewers who rewatch with pause buttons. The creators weren't just mocking her brand, they were questioning whether the brand had replaced the person, and it hit harder than most expected. But South Park wasn't finished. The next scene was reportedly their most theatrical, a full-blown courtroom trial, where the jury wasn't just judging her actions, they were judging her reputation. If the leaked version had a climax, this was it. And it was as theatrical as it was ruthless. Picture this. An absurd, oversized courtroom packed with angry townspeople. Not just any lawsuit. Meghan's cartoon version is being sued for emotional distress. The cause? Her non-stop public reinventions. Witness after witness reportedly takes the stand, ranting about how every new venture, podcast, and rebrand left them exhausted, confused, or emotionally whiplashed. From archetypes to jam jars, the satire made one point crystal clear. Too many pivots can wear thin, even on your audience. And then, the gavel slams. A mock judge, complete with powdered wig and glowing eyes, leans forward and growls. "Do you swear to spin no more glossy pivots?" But before Meghan can answer, the courtroom lights flicker and dim. That's when the ceiling opens and a giant slot machine descends. This Monte Carlo-style machine didn't flash cherries or sevens. Instead, it featured Netflix icons, Oprah silhouettes, and dollar signs, spinning violently as the crowd watches in silence. Animated Meghan yanks the lever dramatically while chanting her mantra, "My faith is greater than my fear." But instead of a jackpot, the reels land on 3 rogue symbols: a crown, a corgi, and a Union Jack. Suddenly, a red siren goes off. A robotic voice declares, "Contract breach." Then, in one final animated gut punch, a legal clerk's stamp slams down with the word "revoked" across her image, and the entire slot machine collapses, dropping her avatar through a trapdoor labeled "pending." It wasn't just satire. It was character collapse portrayed as a literal fall, a punchline that felt like a judgment. But the final twist? That came after the credits. Just when you think it's over, South Park delivers a final punch. Quiet, petty, and devastating. In the rumored post-credit sting, the screen fades into a dimly lit Montecito kitchen, unmistakably mimicking Meghan's infamous Instagram-perfect aesthetic. But instead of a cozy domestic vibe, the scene is surreal. Cartoon Harry stands at the counter, painstakingly frosting an endless pile of leftover jam jars. The American Riviera Orchard dream now a silent, sticky nightmare. He speaks softly into a podcast mic, but his every word is censored. Not just bleeped, but plastered in real time with a blinking on-screen message. Content pending legal review. Then it happens. From stage left trots a small, elderly corgi, complete with a tiny headset, a not-so-subtle wink at the Queen's enduring legacy. Even from beyond the grave, the dog approaches an old-school tape recorder and slams the play button with its paw. A scratchy voice bursts through the static. It's Meghan's voice, her real quotes, now distorted, glitched, and dripping with irony. Lines like, "My soul weeps in languages I've not yet chosen to invent," loop on a warped reel, edited to sound robotic and soulless. The tone is unmistakable. These are her own words, turned into satire. In the background, the kitchen light flickers. Harry keeps frosting the jars, saying nothing. And just as the tape recorder whirs back into a second loop, the corgi tilts its head, pauses, and hits play again. No music, no commentary, just a quiet, looping burn. Her own narrative. Now the punchline.